Welcome. This is the Immigration Stat Us podcast. Myron Turner here again. So excited to be doing this today. Today we're going to talk to Paul Firth, all the way from Johannesburg, South Africa. Now he's been here for 6 years. 6 years. 6 years of gaining new perspective. 6 years of trials and tribulations. 6 years of joy and happiness. But we want to hear about it all today. All right. Welcome back to the Immigration Stat Us podcast. I'm your host, Myron Turner, and this is episode 2. This is history in the making, y'all. If you tapping in now, you're a part of something special. All right, so today we're going to get right into it. But first, let me go ahead and thank our sponsors once again, Ministry of Ethnic Communities, also Navigators, and also the Campfire Studios for giving us a wonderful facility to record this. So if you're tuning in the early days, like I really feel like you're part of something special. We actually are making history here and giving a voice to a voiceless group of people. And that's all of us who migrated here from other parts of the world. Today, we're going to be talking to a very, very, very special guest, my man, Paul Firth, who's been here for 6 years. Paul.
Myron.
Welcome to the Immigration Status Podcast. And like I've already been chatting with you off camera, and it's just been wonderful. Like I told you, we're going to have a nice, easygoing conversation. But we can be candid, just be honest, be free, feel free to say whatever you want, as long as you don't, swear. Obviously, there's no swearing.
Yeah, good.
May have some kids tuning in, so,
good.
Just be free and just welcome. So glad to have you here. So look, like I said before, Paul's coming from South Africa, Johannesburg, South Africa. Johannesburg is also where my wife is from. Like I told you before, my wife and her family from Johannesburg. So I'm an American boy that's plugged into a South African family. So all 3 of my children have South African names, and they also have just a normal English name. But yeah, so I wanted to make sure they have that. I'm trying to force them to learn Sotho, which is the language that my wife and my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law speak. But they're not really picking it up as quickly as I want to. So I'm learning it right now. So I can say a little bit like Dumela, Lukai. Then you say the thing. Let's say, we got the dialect.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah,
also impersonate South African accent very well. If you want to have a braai, we come over, we have a braai. There's a lot of aggression in the throat.
Good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
You want to have a braai.
As long as you can get your throat cleaned, you'll be all right.
You got the. It's hard to hear. It's like I love talking to South Africans. Like honestly, I know too many South Africans. My pastors are South African. Also Afrikaans speaking. They've been here for over 20 years.
Good.
Most of the people in my church are South African. I got a lot of South African friends, a lot of South African clients at work, and I get along with them pretty well. And I think what we were saying before is a reason for that, and that is because Americans and South Africans are kind of like twins. And as far as cultural sense,
yeah, sure.
We don't mind being in each other's face and kind of like telling like it is. What do we say?
Don't mind being confrontational.
We don't mind. Yeah, we don't mind. Yeah. We don't mind the confrontation. We don't mind the here, and that's a big cultural shock. Like when I got here, like that people don't like confronting things in New Zealand. Like it's not really a thing. Or if they do, they just do it in a certain rate. Like it's like a timer around. Okay, we're gonna be confrontational right here on Tuesday morning at 7:00, and once 7:15 is over, we're gonna go back to doing what we were doing.
Yeah, very much so.
Whereas American culture, like especially in my family, you got something to say, you're going to say it right then and there. Like, look, We're not having a birthday party until you tell me why you didn't come to the church last night. And
yeah, true. Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Everything is canceled until we get over this offense. So it's like, yeah, that's pretty much American. And I found out like dealing with South Africans here, even in New Zealand, like I always say, just because you come from another part of the world, it doesn't mean like you're going to change who you are. Your immigration status doesn't change who you are. No, I love saying that because it's so true. Like if anything, you become more South African when you leave South Africa.
Yeah, sure.
Because you're trying to hold tight to that culture where you're from. Yeah. So
and I think that's a big thing because in your immigration journey, you're right. you are who you are. And at times you got to learn how to adapt and change. But yet, deep down inside you, there's still an identity. There's still things that make you tick, make you think, make you apply. And it's a lifetime of background and history. You come from a particular way, particular place. And, as much as you adapt, you still kind of hold on to that. So yeah, it's great to be with you. Great to have a chat. And like you say, Americans and South Africans, there are many things that we can celebrate. In the way we do things. So yeah, it's great. Looking really forward to our conversation today. So.
Well, let's hop into it. Okay, so you're from Joburg, right? Let me get into it by asking you first, what was it like, your immigration transition coming from Johannesburg to New Zealand? I guess I'm asking, why did you come here? What made you leave Joburg?
Yeah, so I'm a born and bred Joburg boy. The city of gold, as they would call it. And lived there, met my wife in Joburg. And it's a vibrant city, busy, nearly in our region, maybe nearly up close to 60 million people. So it's a real busy place. And our identity and who we are, was in that very place. But to help you on our journey, we were given an opportunity to come and be part of a church up here in Auckland. And so my wife and I, through some of the things and the passions of who we are and, being Christian, we felt that is an opportunity and a door that has been opened to us to journey with our family. We're still young and we're able to take some risks, and come and be part of something that is very different. So, it's a tough decision to make, to leave what in a sense, places that bring you comfort and belonging. But it was a great journey for us, and we're grateful that we actually, embarked on this great big journey from Africa, all the way over to New Zealand. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, we were on a pastoral team, part of a church, and through some relationship here, we were given an invitation to come and join a team as one of their pastors. And so we prayed, we processed, we deliberated, we came, we spent some time here for 2 weeks, just processing a few bits and pieces, and felt that the season was right in God for us to come and actually journey or come on this journey. And there's a bit of background to that. I initially, the very first time I came to New Zealand was in March of 2005. I was a bachelor. I was a young 21-year-old. And I came and I spent a month in New Zealand. Came for some leadership training at a conference, spent some time, and I fell in love with New Zealand. My heart was, just
that
my
was
heart
2005.
2005, yes. So I got married, and in 2009, of July 2009, I brought my wife here.
Okay.
And spent 2 weeks in New Zealand. During that time, we had an opportunity to be in Auckland for a bit, and went to Christchurch and Wellington, just a little bit of a hop over to get a bit of a feel for New Zealand.
Can we quick pause? Like what you said, you used the term you fell in love in New Zealand. Like that's a really strong statement to make, that this is before you had a partner at the time,
yeah,
right?
That's right.
So what made you fall in love with this place?
In all honesty, I came and spent some time with some people that and got invited to stay with them, and got exposed to New Zealand in a sense that was very different. The community of people were predominantly Polynesian, Pacifica, and Maori. The community, and I got exposed to culture which I didn't see in Africa. And when I came here, obviously the beauty of New Zealand, it's easy to fall in love, with the beauty. But my heart was stirred for people. And the reason being is, you leave a place and people leave an impression on you. You can find many beautiful places in the world. People would argue maybe not as beautiful as New Zealand, but real sense of the people and the community. And I was exposed to South Auckland, which in many ways is this melting pot of culture and
That's
people.
right.
And if I'm honest with you, I don't think there's a place, and maybe people will disagree with me, but there's not a place like South Auckland.
I won't disagree. I won't disagree there for sure.
Yeah, no, and it is, and you come, and I have the privilege of living in this community, the very community that I was initially exposed to, And the people left an impression on me.
Yeah.
The culture, the vibrancy, the celebration of who they are, where they come from. And so yeah, I fell in love in that sense and left to go back to South Africa, not knowing, what the future may hold, but, holding very dear to me the people that I met, and the places that I visited back then, And so, as I said, then in 2009, I had the privilege of bringing my wife here. We were just married. And so we came here and spent some time in Auckland, and then did a bit of a walkabout into Christchurch, very flash in a pan.
Yeah.
Saw Christchurch, saw Wellington. And, I said to my wife, I just sense that maybe somewhere along the line, this is a place we will end up coming to settle. And so went back to South Africa, carried on with our lives, had kids, established ourselves in the community, did well in the marketplace. And then we got to this point in 2014, I had an opportunity to come back here. And when I got back here, all those emotions, all those sensing and stirrings I felt that God had placed in my heart from my previous trips, all of a sudden, came to the forefront again. And then I was confronted again with this, the stirring in my heart for this place that I'd fallen in love with before. And, just between 2014, later that year, we came back again with my wife, and we spent another 2 weeks here processing this decision about coming.
How did she feel about it all?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big decision because my wife's family, they're very close, and their extended family, they're very, very close because they themselves, from my wife's side, very much so, they themselves were immigrants. My wife's grandfather fled the war from Germany, and they did a 3-month boat trip to South Africa, getting away from the war and the calamity, and in fact many things that we're even seeing happening in the Ukraine, even as we having this podcast. So my wife's grandparents and my wife's mum they were very small, and they fled to South Africa, and so I think what that's done, it's actually kind of placed great value and purpose for them as a family, and so. For my wife, it's a tough decision to think she's got to leave her family because they're close, and you got to uproot. It's hard to leave.
Yeah, man.
Leave the things and as I said early on, it's the things that give you security and comfort and belonging as a person.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difficulty with the journey of being an immigrant, because everything that brings you great joy and comfort, it's stripped away, and you've got to you're a little bit like a deer in the headlights, And so I've got a great wife, and she's she loves God, and she through everything that she does is this desire to do and please God in everything that we do. We are people of the cross. We have faith, and everything we do, we process it through that. And so when we went back in 2014, when we spent 2 weeks here coming to look, not if this is our move, but rather where we would be placed, we flew back in over Johannesburg, South Africa, into the airport. And I looked to my left, and I saw the tears rolling down my wife's face.
Yeah.
And I just, leaned over to her and I said, "Hey, babe, what's happening?" And she says, she kind of sensed something of release of South Africa to go to New Zealand.
Okay.
And, the next year in November of 2015, lock, stock, and barrel, we took our 2 baby girls, our twin girls.
Wow.
And we sold our home during that year, took all the proceeds from the home that we owned, together with some of our retirement savings, and we used all of that to fund our trip here. So we left everything November, and we landed at the Auckland International Airport, as you know, with bags and trolleys and two little kids, on this journey to make a new life for ourselves in a foreign land,
So I'm just trying to track here. So what would have been your immigration status at the time? So you came here as a visitor that first time in 2005, and then you went back, and then so by the time you were ready, 2014, 15, you guys were coming. What was the immigration status at the time?
So I applied for a religious workers visa.
Okay.
At the time, because I'm a pastor and minister, I got a job as a pastor here, and so applied to Immigration New Zealand through a religious workers visa.
Okay.
With the purpose of advancing religion, building community. And because I came from a church where I was already doing that and had the experience of being on pastor, that was the doorway for us into.
That was the doorway.
That was the
Okay.
doorways into New Zealand. My wife actually is a teacher, qualified teacher. But at the time she didn't have a job, so she came on an open work visa. So we arrived with that religious workers visa and
An open work visa.
Yeah.
And did you feel like the process was seamless? It was like a nice and easy flow, or was it any bumps in the road in the system? Or
No, I mean, at the time, I think it was far easier than I think some people are experiencing even
now,
today.
yeah.
But that being said, I mean, there's a lot of emotion in the process and a lot of planning. I think one of the things that is so important, I think, for people that are thinking of immigrating is that you need to have some sort of a pathway to know. Because I think one of the toughest parts coming and not knowing, if you'll get a residency and be able to settle. Because I think the craziest thing is you come and you're trying to navigate this and there might be the potential if you don't get residence, you end up going back. And in our case, we used all our resources, the proceeds from our home to move here and actually settle. So, which meant we actually in many ways cut every tie, in a sense, to South Africa, to Johannesburg. So for us at the time, the easiest way and the thing that worked the best for us is that we consulted an immigration agency. And we had some numerous conversations with them around how do we what's our pathway into New Zealand? What's the best way? How do we keep our finger on the pulse? And ultimately, the goal would be is to have residency so we can settle because we kind of committed to this journey of being here. We weren't thinking of having a gap here and then go back. You got small kids. You've just sold your home.
Yeah.
You give up everything. So I think back then was easy. And I think even that process in itself is also pliable always. And I think the difficulty for immigrants is that even though at times you have a great plan, I think along the way you hit absolute bumps because things inevitably change. Immigration changes the rules. They change the hourly rate. On what you got to earn as an immigrant to get a residency and what you have to do and I don't think you ever truly feel settled and at peace until that time you have that passport and it says you're a resident.
You're a resident, yeah.
And then you're like, gee, okay, we can actually take a breather, And it's that the whole period is incredibly stressful because you have to consistently adapt and apply, what you're doing. So yeah, and I think in our case, the thing that happened was because my wife was a qualified teacher, she never came as a teacher initially, and because we settled. And then the difficulty in that journey for her and for our, because when we got residency, she became the main applicant. Of course, she had the teaching degree
right, yeah.
and the experience back in South Africa. We had to again change, and it's expensive. You've now used all your resources. You're back here. You're saving. You're cutting. You're in a new country. You're trying to make sense of this, and so an expensive and at times a very painful process.
Because I remember that point system. They had a point system. You may remember. I don't know. They may even still be doing it.
160 points was the threshold. I remember.
Oh my gosh. That's what I was going to ask you about moving to Auckland because I every South African person that I've known, they all, whether it's faith based or not, the decision is always around trying to have a better lifestyle for their family because South Africa. Apparently, now I've never been there, but this is the general consensus of what I'm hearing from people from South Africa. Is South Africa is not an ideal place to be overall. I've been told that it has its spots of beauty, it has its spots of glory, but overall, it's not a place where you want to be. They said so. Some of the actually it's two different crowds of people. So I'm dealing with the people who are probably over people who are over 50, and then it's people who are under 50. The people over 50, they talk about how South Africa used to be and how it was it was great and this and that and but then like they said they all talk about this decline.
No, right.
They have this story of this decline of over time, and then everybody responded to that decline in their own way. Either they left immediately, or they had a plan to leave, or they created an exit strategy and it didn't work. But yeah,
I think there is a slight different tangent to our story, But putting that aside, looking at the fellow South Africans, and yet I still have those connections and speak to those people outside of my immediate. People come here looking for a better life, and it's because in the South African context at the moment, unemployment's through the roof. Corruption is next level.
Yeah.
Even to the point. And if I'm honest, I think that the thing that saddens my heart, thinking back of South Africa, is that, even the government of this time squandered money that was given to the poor to weather a COVID storm, And to be honest, how do you do that? How do you steal from the poor? And it doesn't take rocket science to sit back and say, gee, there's something wrong with the system here.
My mother-in-law tells me stories like this all the time.
Yeah,
it's just really, it's kind of hard to wrap my head around that a president or any government official would do that, or
no, tolerate it,
or tolerate it as well. But I even heard stories about like bribing the police. Like apparently this is a big thing over there. Like you can bribe the police.
No, right. I mean, there's a bit of a joke. Sorry to interject. There's a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
I sometimes tell people, it's like when you get stopped for speeding, you can slip the traffic officer, 50 Rand or 100 or 200 Rand. I mean, I don't know what people pay, but, guys say, oh, it's wrong. And so guys joke, say, oh, no, it's a spot fine. You get a discount if you pay on the spot, And that's the way people drive with money in their pockets. If they break the law, it's so easy just to give the guy maybe 100 Rand or, whatever the equivalent is and actually just move on. And now that's an easy way out, but it only exasperates a problem that is so at the grassroots of the South African culture. And the problem that you face is that then South Africans come here because there's no future for their kids. Now, you've got your own kids. You do whatever you can in order to set your kids up to succeed.
That's right.
And actually have the basics in life. And the problem that has been exasperated is that opportunities are far and few between. And then people come to New Zealand to come here to feel like they just want to build a new future for their kids, so that their kids can become a plumber or become a doctor, and looking for the opportunities that they need to have. I recently heard someone say the thing that excites them the most is that the pressures of their children to feel like they have to have a university degree. They can go and become an electrician and be super comfortable because that will set them up for their future.
Yeah.
And then people come and they give everything away in order to make that work. And if I may, I mean, I don't know, maybe this will rub some people the wrong way, but apartheid in South Africa has done different things. In the best attempt to bring reconciliation, it's actually reared its head, and and for some South Africans, and the conversations I have with people is that it's pretty much changed races, and so. Which means certain people are adversely affected over other cultures, which means then they don't get jobs, they're not considered. And then guys are saying, we're feeling incredibly displaced even in our own nation. And so then they come abroad looking for opportunity so that at least they can feed a little bit of this ambition or purpose that they want to see in their own lives. And I think that's really interesting because that creates another dilemma even on our shore here among some of our South Africans. Because then they feel displaced in a nation there. They feel forced to leave because there's no future. They come here, but yet they still struggle here to assimilate in culture. And so they're kind of in this difficult place navigating. I'm not fitting there, and I don't fit here. And then sometimes you get what we see in certain parts even of Auckland where South Africans begin to congregate because they just want to hear the language. They just want to eat the food.
That's right.
The things, the boerewors and the
braai.
And a braai.
Want to have a braai.
Oh, right. And hear the accent and feel like everything's okay. But, for some families, it's a false reality at times,
So actually that's a good segue because I actually was getting ready to ask you about culture fit. So here we are, 2015. You got your twin girls here. How old are they at this point?
9.
9.
Yeah. So sorry, back then. Sorry, they were just just on 3.
They were just very small, very toddlers. So you guys are here, and so your immigration transition, the practical side was smooth, but when you got here and you settled into your stuff and your wife settled into her stuff, Like, how was it? How did you find? Because you said you fell in love with the land because they had a heart for the people. But how was your interaction dealing with the people of New Zealand when you actually got here? What actually happened? What were some of the highlights and maybe some of the low points of your interaction with the culture of New Zealand?
Yeah, I think being South African, I'm a bit boisterous as it is, you know. So, you know, you can, you know, I think the difficulty is that you take time to understand culture, and you think you speak English, so you're like, okay, great, be all right.
You speak English?
No, I mean, you speak English, so you know, you think, okay, I speak Oyole. You think you speak English, so you think, okay, cool, I'm gonna be all right. But it is a cultural shock because things are fundamentally different. There's a Kiwi way of doing things, you know, and sometimes because some South Africans, and I'm just going to generalize for a moment, some South Africans come highly charged to make things work for them. They're in a foreign land. They want to work hard. They don't want to play games. They, you know, they've been given an opportunity and they're going to make the most of it.
Yeah.
And it's not long before you can get to a little bit of a crossroads where all of a sudden that boisterous and front-footedness can be misread and you end up coming unstuck.
Okay, so on that, let's dig into it. So on that note, give me a low point. Give me something that actually happened here where it was like a culture class. Now we're stuck at the stalemate here.
No, you know let me talk for myself. You know,
Yeah.
My mind's always working, thinking, processing, and I've been graced with this ability to implement, take vision, work it out. My mind kind of finds ways to work around problems. And I think some of the things that I've gone unstuck with and actually been unhelpful at times is that instead of maybe hearing someone out, I would jump to the point and say, I think we should be doing that.
Yeah.
In a sense, you know. And what that does is, and I don't think I've perfected it, but maybe some of my friends and colleagues that watch this might say, oh yeah, but because what that does is that in some of the Kiwi way of doing things is to collaborate and get people's buy-in and look in and getting perspective. And I think my over-eagerness to do well or over-eagerness in my character in that sense has sometimes got me a little bit unstuck.
Okay.
Because it can come a little bit arrogant or, you know, you maybe know everything. And so I've had to learn, and I'm still learning, if I'm honest with you, about, you know, how to journey and get buy-in and get the way of doing things. And it is because I think the thing is this, is that there's cultures that even in the New Zealand culture, the subcultures, you know, Pacifica, even the Maori culture, you know, there's certain ways of doing things because they come from a certain worldview.
Yeah.
And that shapes it. And so when you have that, is that ability to actually say, let's get all the ideas on the table and hear what the implications of your decisions are in the outworking of what you decide. Because people say there's some cultural things that apply to them on how they do that. Where for me, it actually makes no difference in my life, in a sense, you know.
See, us coming together though and having that conglomerate of ideas, that makes sense in theory, but I come to the conclusion that practically it'll never work. And this is why I got a reason behind this. Let me.
No, that's good. That's
like,
good.
So what's the national bird in South Africa? Do you guys have a national bird?
Well, now you've put me on the spot. I think it's does someone have Google here?
I can Google it right now. I don't know it.
Gee, don't put this on air. They're gonna,
no, it's okay.
they can,
like no one was expecting me to give you trivia questions. Hold on, let me just. National bird of South Africa. Now, there's a reason why I'm going there. So our national bird in America is the eagle, the bald eagle. All right. National bird in New Zealand is the kiwi. Yeah. And national bird of South Africa is. Oh, do you have it, Will?
Blue crane.
Blue crane.
I thought so.
The blue crane.
I had the Dutch word in my mind, and I can't remember the English one. But yeah, so the blue crane. Okay.
Sorry, I did. Thanks. Well, I actually didn't. Will's off camera, but you know he is a handsome guy. I know you can't see him. The blue. There. So this is why I'm going with the bird thing. Okay, check it out. So this is what I found out. Okay, these birds is literally it's like a mirror effect of the type of people that we are. So you have, I don't know much about a crane, but I know that they soar high. And I believe that they're predators. Somebody fact check me. You can leave a comment on this video, but I'm pretty sure that they're predators by nature. Bald eagles, same thing. Bald eagles soar higher than any other bird. They fly. They can see storms miles away before they come, and they can fly above the storm, and they swoop down, and they're predators. So kiwis, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know it all. I'm just saying kiwis are nocturnal animals that always are looking down, and they only are at night. That's, So if you put these three birds in a room together, and you tell those birds to try to see life in the same way, you're probably gonna get exactly what we're getting. You're gonna get the eagle and the crane over here shaking hands like, oh, this is how we do it, and you got the kiwi over here like, slow down, mate.
I guess I hear what you're saying, but I think one of the things that I encourage people with is that learn how to be the best Kiwi you can be as an immigrant.
What do you mean?
Yeah, because I think sometimes we can hold tight to things that we think are right as immigrants, but sometimes this is what we said right up front: is learn how to adapt to the culture. Some things are helpful, some things are unhelpful in the journey. And I think sometimes some of the difficulties that people come is they want things to be a certain way because we used to do it like that. The problem is you used to do it like that when you were back in America or when you were back in Africa. Mm-hmm. But when you come into a culture here, you can't, I think you just in a sense create problems with some things you need to learn or unlearn for the sake of adapting and being part of a culture that is fundamentally different to who you are. You don't have to lose who you are fundamentally in terms of identity, but there are some things that you can learn along the way. And I think it's important in part of the assimilation process for immigrants in this nation is there are some things we'll never get our head around. Let me be honest with you. Sausage sizzle, even though, honestly, even though I eat it, I sometimes ask myself, if you're going to give me a piece of bread, at least put a little bit of butter on it. We're in the South African culture. We do sausage that is full of flavor and that's got spices in it, and you put an onion relish on it, and you put it in a roll, in a bun. You don't slap it in a piece of bread. And I can't get my head around it, But I can't go all the time and feeling like, I'm now grumpy every time someone serves me a sausage sizzle.
Just slap it out of the hands.
You just out of here. You just take it and you embrace it.
This is an embarrassment.
Yeah, but to come to every time and say, gee, can't you guys do better than this? Maybe it's not about you. Maybe it's about Kiwis love sausage sizzle. You can't go to Bunnings without, feeling like even walking past the little thing and saying, hey, let me have a sausage sizzle here. You buy it because it's what you do. But then I go home and I'm like, I really want a good South African sausage.
And then I some boerewors now.
Boerewors, and I braai it and I eat it like I want to, and it's learning how to really assimilate to the culture. One of the things that some of our guys had a conversation because I've got some Polynesian friends, and they've been gracious to me because they've been a little bit of a safety net, learning and teaching me things around, just how you do things, what's helpful sometimes, what's not helpful. And we have a bit of a joke because in the South African culture, we are quite hospitable in the sense that we would send you an invite. Come, Myron, come to our home this time. Don't bring anything, and then we'll do a big, big lamb or a chicken or a barbecue or a braai or with our milk tarts or our, the stuff that we celebrate. And that's how formal some of it is for us, But then I heard some people say, "Gee, why aren't these guys inviting me to their home? Why aren't they asking me to come over?" And then I heard some people complain, and it's like, but actually. Speaking to one of my Tongan friends, he's like, you got to understand in some of the Polynesian culture is that you are always invited. If you are accepted, you're always invited. You don't have to wait for the invitation.
Show up.
In fact, you don't even have to come through the front door anymore. You come through the back door because
through
you're
the
now part of the
garage,
family.
yeah.
You just ring us up and say, we're on our way. And it's impromptu in a sense. And yet we get unstuck about cultural things where we're actually, okay, all right, let me pick up the phone and ring him and say, hey, dude, I'm coming over. I'm coming to have a feed, or I'm coming to your home, you know. So I don't know if that helps what I'm saying, but I think there is some things. And to get back to your analogy of different personalities, we need those personalities.
I understand. Okay, like I agree with that part. But my challenge to you is this. At what point does it become a two-way street? Because I beat my head in for years trying to de-Americanize myself. I was told my CV was too American. I was told I'm talking too fast. I was told this and that. So I literally did this for years. And then like 2 years ago, I was like, man, forget this.
Yeah,
What you see is what you get. I've already changed my accent. You know, y'all say I talk too American, but when I get on the phone with my brothers, they say, man, you sound like one of them. So like, right. So like at the end of the day, right, you know, anybody in America I know, they say, oh, your accent might, like, I got family back at home. When I went back home a couple of years ago to visit, my family was like just amazed. They would listen to me pronounce certain words and be like, what are you saying?
What's up?
And
with
why
you?
are you saying it like
Are you
that?
sick?
Like,
Yeah.
So I was like, man, you go to another country and try not to have your accent changed. Try it. You know, it's like, but it's I guess what I was going with the bird analogy is like, I kind of feel like I agree with you 100%. Like, you definitely need to be open to that and that change, because some change is good. But at the same time, it's damaging to come to a new place and try to fit in, make changes, and then still be told that it's not enough. So then you get stuck in this place. So I guess what I want to know from you, did you have anything like that? If you didn't, that's fine. We can just skip on to the high points and what you really like about being here. But I wanted to know, did you have anything? Did you have any type of culture clash like that where you felt like you were a square trying to fit into a hole that was a circular hole, you know?
Yeah, I'm just trying to rack my brain a little bit for more opportunities. But I think it's always like that, because you're right. I mean, I went back to Africa, and then guys are just staring at me like, because I had an opportunity to speak to a crowd of people to do some teaching. And even back then, guys are like, you know, I can see them squinting. I had that same squint the first time I had got onto a platform with a mic. You know, and I saw people gradually move forward in their seats to try and get my accent. And then I went back to Africa and I had the very same thing. You know, it's like car park against car park. I mean, you know, and I was like, you know, there's some ways you just pick up things to be better. Because even my accent's strong, right?
It's very
the
strong.
amount of phone calls, and you know, I'm forever spelling stuff on the phone.
Yeah.
You know, because guys are like, sorry, what did you say?
What did you say?
You know, you know, it's like, I just got to learn how to be gracious and patient with myself, because I sometimes have to you know, do that. And I guess I once had a bit of a disagreement with a lady at the squash courts about something. You know, as a South African, I've got a strong sense of justice. You know, doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of a disagreement around, there was a bit of a mistake made, and she thought I was too pushy in a sense, you know, too front foot. And I'm saying, no, actually, your calculation's wrong. You should be giving me a refund, you know, because my strong sense of justice is give me what's rightfully mine, you know, and you know, just that very kind of encounter realized, man, there's sometimes things that people are just not going to get. And I walked away. I thought, what was that argument all about? I mean, you know, I'm not going out to have confrontations with people, not at the squash court at least. You know, I was paying some squash membership, and incorrectly charged me, and I had a strong sense of justice. And I walked away thinking, gee, what did I do wrong? And I realized actually inside of me, there's a strong sense of justice to do the right thing. And then that sometimes can be misconstrued that you're trying to push your way, or
Do you feel like
too
you need
dominant, or you're too pushy. And I'm like, me and this lady are having a disagreement, and you know, and I think I'm not really sure if that's even kind of adding any value to.
No, it is.
to
But
your question,
it is adding a lot of value. Do you feel like you were in the wrong at all? Do you feel like you should have apologized for that?
No, not really, because I was shortchanged. And so I'm like, actually, no. And she's like, you're too front-footed. Why are you pushing me so hard for this? And I think that the challenge is that there is at times, Myron, the clash of two worlds when it comes to culture, you know, because we are both you and I, there's a certain way you do things, and you come here, and then sometimes you really are just, very contrary to the way in which things happen, in New Zealand, in a sense.
I've come to a conclusion. We'll table this because we can do this all day. Obviously,
no, sure, yeah, no,
but I've come to the conclusion that like why confrontation is so hard. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I think confrontation is hard because you're dealing with two things at the same time. You're dealing with that person's emotion and your own internal world emotion as well, and it's kind of hard to kind of balance. A lot of people, it's hard for even professional counselors deal with this like this. You have to try to deal with the objective and the subjective at the exact same time, and it's very, very hard to do that. You were dealing with the facts in that situation. That's very objective. Here, this is what happened. This is wrong. It needs to be righted. And then it's the subjective of I actually feel this way. She was feeling away. You were feeling away, and that's pretty much why it's hard to deal with confrontation. But at the same time, like that's why I love this platform, because it's like I think we all need some group therapy, because at this point it's just like we all got so many different stories and so many different perspectives to fit. I love the bird analogy. Hopefully I can use it for other episodes and find out what other birds are from other parts of the world. You put all these different birds in the room and see what's going to happen. But how Kiwi can you make a crane? How Kiwi can you make an eagle? or vice versa?
No, right. Because I think, yeah, I mean, if you're looking solely at the illustration, it's all about habitat, it's all about behavior, it's all about climate, it's all about a whole lot of things, And yeah, so you're quite right. How you can't ask a leopard to change its spots, because that's the way it is.
That's the way it is.
But you take a leopard from the wild and you put it in a zoo. It changes the environment, and I mean, I'm no expert, but undoubtedly it changes its behavior, the way in which it will do things. Maybe the way it will become more aware of people. And I think that's the tightrope of dealing with culture, is that some things are worth fighting for.
Yeah.
And I think some things are not worth fighting for. In a sense that some things are, as you say, maybe just subjective to you in a sense. And you've got to find what your value is and what you value.
Yeah.
And then feel like, actually, I'm not prepared to let those values slip for the sake of becoming likable. But yet,
I love that.
You can't always change.
Could you repeat and rewind that, please? That was a gem right there. Could you repeat that, sir?
Yeah, I think there's some things that you will value, and I think it's an unfair expectation from anybody to feel like you got to change things that is of value to you. My kids, everything I do, the way I raise them is around values for us. When I bring discipline, when I lead them, when I help them navigate life, bring them back to our values, who we are, what we stand for. And I think when culture and some things encroach on some of that, then I think maybe it's illegitimate. And you've got to actually say, I can't change that. But then again, some things you've got to change just for the sake of saying it's not making straight paths for yourself, because sometimes it's not worth going against the grain.
Yeah.
And again, it's different for different people. And I think we're not trying to push a cause here. You are in another country. You're in another culture. Some things are really worth celebrating.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've grown to like, and it was at first a little bit of a cultural shock, is that even the way people in our community do burials. In the South African white culture, we have a nice photo with some roses and a bit of cucumber sandwich afterwards, and we come and pay homage and, say a few words and we go on. Here, people celebrate. They really do a great job of remembering. I remember the first funeral I went to, I was petrified, because I went to someone's home and their loved one was put in a casket in their home, and I was like, I was shocked. The idea of corpses actually freaked me out a little bit.
I think it freaks most people out.
No, yeah, sure. I mean, but see, because of my cultural thing. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I can't do this, and I think it's weird. And no, actually, it's beautiful. Culturally, so great to celebrate your loved ones. And now I've been to numerous funerals or burials, and I find it beautiful because celebrate, have a meal, talk. Where in South African white culture, we don't mourn well, we don't deal with the dead well, we bomb out and crash after the fact. The exposure I've had, people do well. They mourn well, they set themselves up, and never actually crash and burn after the fact because they've sacrificed. You know what I'm saying? Culturally, And now those are things I'm like, oh, yeah. Wish we done more of that in a sense. So I don't know if that's helpful, but
no, that part is. I'm still learning it myself. I mean, you got some of these cultures here, and like the Pacific Islander cultures, the funeral goes for a week.
No, sure.
7-8 days, and I'm just like, wow, that's interesting. And I also just found out that the corpse in the home thing is actually more common in other parts of the world than I knew.
Right.
People do that all the time in certain other countries, but in America, you ain't gonna find that. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
No,
I've never seen it happen. If it has happened, somebody correct me online. But I've never seen out of all the funerals I've been to in the States, bro. We see that body twice. Once at the wake, if you go to the wake, and the other time at the funeral, and then a lot of times it's a closed casket. Right. People don't really do bodies. But that's another conversation.
No, but anyway, some things that are just culturally different, which is great.
Okay, I need to try to land this plane now. So, so what is your favorite Kiwiism or Kiwi cultural aspect of the country, or something you just still can't get your head around?
As I said, sausage sizzle is still something I'm bringing that up again. Still,
let's go with something you like.
Yeah,
what do you like about?
You know what I do like? I do love the coffee culture in New Zealand.
Oh yeah, it's serious. It's like
serious.
It's like an Olympic sport here, and you're making coffee.
No, right. So I do like that. Just a bit more lighthearted. I love the coffee culture. Love the fact that you can grab a good old flat white, and then just stroll, onto the promenade, let's say Mission Bay, and walk and enjoy the outdoors. Yeah. It's safe. People are friendly.
Sea views.
People are happy to be there.
Yeah.
You can reflect. You can drink your coffee and actually enjoy the finer things in life. And I love that about Kiwis. Kiwis are friendly and helpful. And I found that right from the start. Kiwis are very approachable and friendly. And if you need help, they'll go out of their way to make you feel welcome and to try and help you. So I like that about New Zealand. I like that there's lots of open space for my kids to enjoy outdoors and do things that don't keep them at home, because it's so different to South Africa. South Africa, man, we're behind big walls and electric fencing and armed security guards. Here, that pressure is all off, and people make the most of it. People work hard, but then they play as hard. Have the opportunity to go out, do things, enjoy, and try and find that work-life balance.
Yeah.
Try and really trying to navigate that. So I do like that about New Zealand, to be honest.
Okay. As we close, do you have any tips and tricks or immigration hacks for the future South Africans or the future people from all over the world, not just South Africa, who are thinking about coming to migrate here?
Yeah, I think one of the things I would recommend or say is learn how to be kind to yourself. I know that our Prime Minister has used that a lot over the last couple of years through COVID. But, things change for you as an immigrant. And learn how to be flexible. And learn when things don't go your way not to take yourself too serious. Celebrate the small victories. Be kind to your wife, be kind to your spouse, in the journey of learning how to navigate a very tumultuous and stressful time. As an immigrant, if you look at the settlement curve, it takes 2 years for you to settle in another country.
Yeah,
and you start with this great honeymoon phase, despite you mourning and the low point of immigration is leaving loved ones behind and friends and memories, and you come into a nation and you super excited and you're learning new things, and it comes and it ebbs and flows, and the settlement curve says 2 years, before you really feel kind of settled in your environment, And I think one of the recommendations and a decision that we made, what worked for us, is we said that we will not go back to South Africa for 2 years. We will ride it. We'll, bat the emotions and the sadness and the difficulties, and we gave ourselves 2 years, and then we went back to South Africa. And what we realized when we were there, we actually then realized, and things were a little bit more in perspective on the journey that we've taken and how we've settled and how we feel that this is our road, this is our future in another country. Because I think sometimes when immigrants are fighting all these emotions, they're pining for home, the things that brought them comfort and security, that barista that made the coffee back there, I wish I could have another conversation. When you go back, like after 2 years, that barista is no longer there. The cafe might not even exist anymore. Things that used to be familiar to you are no longer familiar. They look totally different. And when you're there, you start realizing, gee, actually, we've made another life for ourselves. And actually, it's not as bad as we thought it was when you go and you can reflect a little bit on what you have and had back, where you've come from in a sense, So yeah, I think that for me is one of the things that's really important in helping you deal with the immigration process,
Hey, look, well, Paul, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
You've added so much value. I can't believe this is only episode 2. Like, it's been that rich conversation. Great. And I love the fact that, you have, so much passion for family. You're obviously such a man of integrity and, just great man of character. And I hope that we can build a friendship off of this, man. Like,
this is great.
You're the type of guy I like hanging out with,
Yeah, great.
And we can go to a sausage sizzle together.
Great.
And we can critique what they're doing.
No, right. I think maybe we should start another podcast. Getting the best, New Zealand's best sausage sizzle. Where to find it, yeah. Great. Thank you, Myron. Appreciate the opportunity. Lots of great conversation. And I guess my intention is that those people who listen find some sort of comfort and, courage to continue this journey of being a migrant in a foreign land. We're in a great nation, but it doesn't mitigate the fact that as migrants, it's hard.
Very hard.
Very hard. And we have to acknowledge that. It's hard. But the hope that this series would really help people, who make this place their home, Aotearoa, feel like, we can do it and we can build a future, for ourselves and for our children, So, thank you so much for the opportunity. Really grateful.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And one more special thanks to our sponsors, Ministry for Ethnic Communities, the Navigators, and also thank you to Campfire Studios. Signing off, this is Myron T. See you next time. Man, that was crazy. Once again, another great episode under our belt. Look, guys, I really feel like this is history in the making. I hope you feel the same way. Look, my takeaway from this episode was the fact that it's okay to change. It's okay to come from, the moon and live on the sun, I know that sounds great. I always say strange things at the end of these episodes, but if you have a poetic mind, you'll get me eventually. But Paul's really inspired me today to just be more humble and be more grateful. Because if things have not worked out the way that they have, I wouldn't be talking to you today. So look, just tune in because it's going to get even better as we go on. So once again, I'm Myron Turner. Thank you for watching.